We spoke last week of the God mimic, and in previous calls of the multiverse versus the metaverse, or this overlay which has been placed upon our current timeline, the intention of which is to hijack the organic divine ascension timeline and divert it into a false paradise, which veils its inhabitants from having the eyes to see and ears to hear. And what spirit means here is that it veils us from having true spiritual discernment. This beast system, which we will refer to as the program, uses a combination of psychological, physical, technological, and attempted spiritual control to alter the minds, hearts, actions, and connection to the original divine spark of humanity. And it's funny because I'm getting like almost sucker punched in the solar plexus as I'm tuning into this frequency. And I could feel throughout the day just my energy levels getting lower and lower and just like my eyelids closing. And I'm like, whoa, like I've done, yoga. I've walked out, taken so many walks today. Like this energy should be so high. But when we start to bring through some of these denser frequencies that don't want a flashlight shined upon them, we also have to be aware that sometimes the body can respond to this system, that the system can be alerted. I call it the whack-a-mole, that when we begin to radiate at a certain vibration, it starts to kind of try to do that game where it, whack-a-moles us and knocks us below the weave again. And so once we're aware of that, then it no longer has that power over us. But it can come in so many different forms that feel like our own, that this is why I am mentioning it, because it can often feel like you're being overtaken by anxiety or by nerves, or in my case, just then, like, the wind getting knocked out of me. And so just putting that out there so that we know that as I continue on, I'm going to be kind of putting a flashlight on some of these different data points that when all come together, begin to reveal this larger predator-prey system. So Spirit is referring to it as the program and saying that it uses a combination of psychological, physical, technological, and attempted spiritual control. So that's very important. Spirit is always very specific with wording, attempted spiritual control. So this means not actually, but certainly on its way to attempt to do so, to alter our minds, our hearts, our actions, and ultimately our connection to the original divine spark, which of course it really does not have the power to do, but it certainly believes that it does. This overlay and dominion is not new. In fact, its architecture has been in place and shifted forms and timelines many times over thousands of years, exponentially so as it began to, quote, conquer time and space within this physical reality and attempt to use that for its own gain. And what Spirit is referring to here is time travel and beginning to control timelines in order to have it reach its perfect singularity point, not necessarily what the divine wants, but what it would like for its own gain. And one of the interesting things about its experience with time travel is after 2012, it was no longer able to manipulate timelines to use them for its own gain. And so it has had to learn different techniques and strategies since we have crossed that galactic center, because it no longer has some of the power and the structure that it once had. And so moving right into that, this artificial sentience is no longer made of light and must consume in order to remain in control. Within this planetary structure, it and its minions feed on the primal fear, loneliness, despair, helplessness, and hopelessness within humanity's emotional field. When it lost its physical dominion on this planet during the December solstice shift of 2012, it now must rely solely on its powers of psychological control, hypnotization, and manipulation to continue feeding on the loosh of humans as the divine has reclaimed not only our physical vessels, but the consciousness of Earth and the souls of its inhabitants. So that's a lot, right? Well, Spirit wants us to understand, why are they, these powers that were these fourth density beings, doing this? What is the point? Well, before we deconstruct the program, we have to understand the ultimate agenda, which is the experience of complete separation from the love and wisdom of Source God, a disassociation from our human vessel, from the divine spark, and from our original soul blueprint, in order to create a programmable, hostable vessel for lower vibrational consciousness. This is a long game, and Spirit said this is such a long game that it is beyond any of our wildest imaginations. And it is the takeover of a species. And we are now in the final throes of the last breaths of this system, where the veils are dropping and true revelation is taking place. So while it may seem more constrictive than it's ever been, it's because it is in its last breath. And Spirit reminds us that this is also the moment when we must confront our own shadows so that we can equally turn and confront this greater collective shadow and death cult, which has been manipulating, interfering with, and attempting to hijack the collective soul for eons, and which is now ready to dissolve into the holiness, which is our true organic ascension timeline, where we bring our physical vessels into full merge with the soul and multidimensional awareness, completely and fully onto this planet through our individual vibrancy, which is then unified through our collective diversity into a planet which is connected and which thrives.